Kevin, I think you bring up a really good point that sometimes in sport we are really focused on the field or the court or the, wherever the surface of play that we're actually playing the game. But to get that game off of the ground, the operations around that game are, there's so many people involved in it, and I think there are a ton of opportunities, whether it's the marketing and communication of that game, like the great work that you do of being able to actually give people a voice to be able to expose. I was talking to somebody the other day, and amateur sport in general, the coverage of amateur sport, we could use a lot more. So I think that's one great area. I think the other areas is that we have a lot of really good entry points for people to be able to provide them valuable opportunities within local associations, whether it's on boards or whether it's on committees, whether it's operational roles that can fit their expertise. Associations are always looking for help and volunteers and people to be able to be a part of that. And outside of the playing field in and of itself, I mean, coaching is a great piece too, right? Like we need more coaches, and especially to be able to reach out into that diverse group. The best thing that I heard someone say is, I can't be it unless I see it, right? And I think that is a really great way to say that we need people in leadership roles so that young kids can see themselves in those roles, in all of the diversity, whether it's females, BIPOC, every single aspect of our population. I think that's a big piece.
It's funny, being a dominated business. There's not a lot of basketball entrepreneurs. It's definitely rare. And I kind of crept up on people, just doing my own thing. And, I really, when I was younger, I spent a lot of time worrying about my competition. But as I got older, I realized that if I just focused on delivering excellence the best that I could, that's all that really mattered. And that's sort of how I've lived my entrepreneurial journey for these, second part of the time that I've been running my business. But diversity and inclusion has always been really important to me. I went to a completely Jewish day school from basically SK to grade 8. So I had very little introduction to diversity. And when I switched to a high school that was called Vaughan Secondary School, it was very diverse. I loved it. To be honest with you, it opened my eyes to a whole new world. And that's the year that I found basketball. And to me, my company, it's completely diverse. We just hire the best people for the best jobs. And, I just love that, we have the ability to make things completely open for everyone there, whether you're a girl, whether you're a boy, it doesn't matter what your race, your background is. Really, basketball is the universal language. And that has always been one of my favorite parts of this sport, because it really doesn't matter about anything else. It's really just ball in the basket and effort and heart. So to me, basketball has this universal language that is open arms to everybody.
And you talk about this universal language, and I also work with individuals with disabilities as well. And I know that basketball is a great sense of camaraderie for people with disabilities, those that are interested in sports. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on the increased popularity of wheelchair basketball as well.
It's funny, I had zero experience with wheelchair basketball, but in my university years through the phys ed program, they took us to Variety Village in Toronto. And that was my first experience with wheelchair basketball. My eyes were basically opened up to all the accommodations that a well outfitted facility could provide for people of all abilities. And wheelchair basketball was introduced to us as a class, and we all got to, jump in a chair and actually play wheelchair basketball. So much fun, so hard, added a whole nother level of skills that you would need to be able to manage in a chair. But it really opened my eyes to how much fun it was. I don't know that it gets enough recognition other than that one location. I've never seen it played anywhere else. I don't see any wheelchair basketball. I think that's a shame. I really think it's an amazing sport to be shared with anyone of all abilities. So really, yeah, that universal language of sport there should be no limits.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and this is not just OUA sport, but I think as a society, we need to make changes. I mean, systemic racism is out there. It's a problem. Nobody can deny that now. So we have to knock down those barriers. We gotta be intentional in making programs available so that people can develop careers. And, you know, we've seen this in professional sports, like the NFL have the Rooney Rule and things like that. We are just one area within a university. So our influence at the OUA is somewhat limited in that, you know, we can't enforce hiring practices, but we can influence, we can create pathways, we can create internships, we can partner with different coaches associations on creating internships and scholarships and those sort of things, so that we are developing the next generation of BIPOC sports leaders. And there's a couple other programs I'm working with, the Black Talent Initiative, which is basically doing that across all sectors. But there's got to be ways, and we're working on those, to create those opportunities so that, you know, people can pursue any career they want. And we need better representation in OUA. We do. You know, the student athlete representation is wide variety in that we have a lot of student athletes, but we don't see that reflected in senior leadership and in coaching. And we're working on those things too.